Let's bring in Republican strategist Susan Del Percio, MSNBC contributor Howard Dean, former DNC chairman and former governor of Vermont. Also Roland Martin, host and managing editor of NewsOne Now. Big welcome to you both. Hey, thank you, Roland, for joining this group because we usually have Howard and Susan, and so you're rounding it out for us. I appreciate that.
Glad to be here.
Susan, I'll start ladies first. As the White House is saying the president's position on Roy Moore is that, quote, if these allegations are true, Judge Moore will do the right thing and step aside. It sounds like a pass to some degree. There's no way to find out if these allegations are absolutely true before the election. That's just 4 weeks away.
That's right, Alex. And what we have to see now is once the president does return from an overseas trip, and to some extent he could take a pass while he's on this trip, is the question will be posed over and over. Who do you believe, Roy Moore or these 4 women who have put everything at stake to come forward publicly? For me, it's very clear. These women have a lot more to lose and to come forward than believe, and gives them a lot more credibility. So probably, I mean, 4 weeks, a week in a campaign is an eternity. So anything can happen, especially if we start seeing more and more women come out, which is a possibility. You know what, Susan, I just want to harp on that for just a moment about the woman coming forward now and that they've had a lot to lose before now coming forward. You have Roy Moore saying, why are they coming forward 4 decades later, 40 years later? I mean, is it because of this Weinstein effect? Is it because more women are speaking out and they feel that now there is power in these multiple voices, so maybe they will be heard instead of being these lone voices out there putting accusations against a powerful man? That's absolutely right, Alex. And these women, unlike some of the women from the Harvey Weinstein case where we see that they're famous and have a lot of resources, these are women who have to go to the supermarket every day, who have children, who are out there, and it is because there is more of a chance in this environment today that they will believe would be believed than ever before. Okay. Howard, do you think we are going to see a more decisive response from the president once he returns from his trip in Asia? I mean, he said he was going to take a look further when he gets back. Do you think it'll be just a wait and see, looking at the official strategy, or what are they waiting for, polling numbers?
No, I think his staff would like him to continue to say what the White House press people said, which was, if it's true, he should step aside. Donald Trump will say what he thinks. And since Donald Trump has been in a very similar position than Roy Moore is, my guess is Donald Trump comes to Roy Moore's defense. At some point, after dithering around a little bit, he'll say what he thinks. And that's what he thinks, I'm fairly sure, since has some significant similarities to Roy Moore in this particular area.
How about you, Roland? You got Roy Moore. He's blaming it all, calling the allegations as attacks by the media. Do you think voters in Alabama are going to buy that?
Well, here's the fundamental problem that you have with voters in Alabama, especially conservative white evangelicals. These are faithless people. These are false prophets. These are people who serve not GOD, but GOP. When you look at the recent polls showing 63% of evangelicals say they're still going to support, 63% of Republicans, 58% of evangelicals, what does that tell you? When you have Franklin Graham who tweets praying for Roy Moore and his family, but says nothing about the victims. If you go to Ralph Reed's Twitter feed, this is, of course, Mr. Values Voter Summit. He has made no comment whatsoever. Robert Jeffress, nothing. Jerry Falwell Jr., whose father founded the Moral Majority nearly 40 years ago, has said nothing. And this is the fundamental problem here. You have people in Alabama who literally are saying they would rather support an alleged pedophile than a Democratic candidate. Look, if you don't want to support a Democrat, that's fine. But to say you're going to support Roy Moore, this is the problem why I don't want to hear anything from any of these folks in Alabama who talk about morality, who talk about character, who talk about the issue of faith, who talk about in terms of how we must be living, when they are willing to stand behind a man who could not say definitively that he has never dated somebody under 14. That is an abomination. I don't care if you're a Republican, but you had better stand up for faith and values if you want to lecture the rest of America.
Okay, well, that was powerful enough, Roland, that I'm going to move on to a different topic here right now. That being with you, Howard. And you said it. Good for you. Another big story today is the president clarifying his remarks about his conversation with Vladimir Putin. He says now that he believes our intel agencies, 17 of whom said that they have determined Russia did indeed meddle in our election. How do you think he came to that clarification?
I think probably some of his people who were with him said, Mr. President, you've got to go take this back. And he sort of fumbled his way through doing it, as he often does. You know, this is a guy, as I said with the Roy Moore situation, this is a guy who's going to say what he thinks sooner or later. This time he said it first, and now he's trying to walk it back. I mean, but he said this before about the intelligence agencies. You know, he jumps on anybody he doesn't like and any bad news, which is why he's a terrible president.
Susan, you have the former director of national intelligence, James Clapper, saying that the president's clarification still leaves a bit of ambiguity about what the president believes with regard to election meddling. So what's your take there?
I actually agree with Governor Dean on this. It's what the president thinks he says first, and then he has to clarify it. He is so afraid of admitting that Russia tried to do something in our elections. Forget if it was collusion or anything like that. He's just so afraid to say it because he thinks that somehow that will delegitimize his win. He won. He's the president. And that's the thing that's so frustrating now. You know, after the president won, after he's been in office for a couple of months, people said, well, Republicans said, well, at least he's better than if we had Hillary Clinton. Well, let's start judging the president how he acts today as president. It is about time. It's his administration that he say, I believe the people who report to me, and I believe the intelligence that is coming here over a former KGB spy. This is not hard stuff, and it's really disheartening to see absolutely zero growth within the president in the last 10 months.
Roland, I want to read you some new remarks from White House Chief of Staff John Kelly. This, according to the LA Times. He said, quote, someone I read the other day said we all just react to the tweets. We don't. I don't. I don't allow the staff to. We know what we're doing. How do you interpret that, Roland?
You don't know. He don't know what the hell he's doing when you've got a man-child who is tweeting these things. When you have a person who is on foreign soil, who is ripping Americans. I mean, let's just understand this here. The conservative media, Fox News, Fox and Friends, Breitbart, Rush Limbaugh, all of them will be ripping any Democrat to shreds if they condemned Americans the way Donald Trump has on foreign soil. This man talks about make America first and put America first. He can't even respect American intelligence. When you have his own CIA pick have to come out and reiterate that the intelligence agencies certainly believe that Russia has been involved in meddling, and he still doesn't believe it? No, he has been co-opted by Putin and co-opted by Russia. Let's not even dance around this, and it is embarrassing. This man has no respect for the office of President of the United States, so therefore he wants us to respect him. I'm sorry. Grow up, Donald Trump.
Okay, those lines, Howard and Susan, from John Kelly, would you describe them as being disturbing, concerning, reassuring? I mean, how do you look at it? Howard, you first.
Well, I mean, I think we all believe that Kelly is the adult in the White House. The difference of opinion is that whether this guy is in control or not, and he clearly is not. I mean, Kelly has put some order into the White House pecking order, into the way they communicate, into the who can walk into the office, but he can't put order into Donald Trump, and he said so. So this is going to continue, and Trump is going to continue to say whatever he damn well pleases, whether it's good for the country or not. And often it's not. And Kelly can't do a damn thing about it.
But Susan, your thoughts?
Yeah, but it is concerning, Kelly's statements, in that these are official statements from the President of the United States.
Precisely.
Which you, whether you like them or dislike them, or think they're tempered or off the rails, this is coming from the White House. And it is up to General Kelly to be there, or Chief of Staff Kelly, to be there to moderate and at least be able to properly respond and give the marching orders on how we deal with this. So it is a little concerning to hear that statement.
Alice, keep in mind, normally a president says something privately and then they walk it back. No, this is a president saying something publicly and then they're trying to walk it back. You can't walk back his actual words.
I know. You're absolutely right, all three of you. Susan Del Percio, Howard Dean, Roland Martin. Glad to have you all with me. Thank you so much on this Sunday.
Thanks a lot.